Sports Station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. You have found us. Welcome on in. Thank you for joining us here today as we got a great show lined up, talking Rochester sports with you. The sun is out from the High Falls Studios. My name is Gene Battaglia. Tim Schneider, our fine producer. Dan DeLorean in the background. And you can give us a call, 585-866-4326. You can reach us on X, our handle at WGR Rochester. You can watch us on YouTube and Twitch. You can leave a comment there if you so choose. We're at 95.7 FM, AM 950. And always streaming for free in the Odyssey app. The table is set. We're on the air 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. So for anybody that, that doesn't fit your schedule, the Odyssey app is there, and you can either listen to the show in its entirety whenever you choose, because that's the way we consume media these days. You want it on demand. Or if you just want to listen to interviews like Matt Perino. You missed Matt Perino. Well, Dan DeLorean has that for you, where you get your fine audio, again, in podcast form. Matt Perino will be joining us here at the bottom of this hour, talking about the Buffalo Bills. His latest article from the Syracuse Post-Standard raises some interesting questions about the Bills here, basically. There are questions heading into rookie minicamp. There are jobs that are up. This is a Bills roster. Sure, they made some improvements, but it's not like we don't have all these little questions kind of going around here. It's going to be a process for this Bills team, figuring out, how do they put the best 53 as we're going from 90 to 53 throughout the course of the spring and summer. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout Podcast, bottom of this hour. Derek Kramer, WGR, here on Sports Talk Saturday on our fine station. He'll join us in the 2 o'clock hour, about 2:25-ish, as it will be tomorrow night, Buffalo Sabres against the Montreal Canadiens, as we'll talk some hockey with Derek coming up in hour number 2. The practice notes today. Now, we knew Sam Carrick had been cleared, and the Sabres are not going to say so-and-so goes in the lineup. We're accustomed to a regular season where you have your beat guys and they tweet out the lines and everything like that. Be very surprised if we get anything definitive before it's absolutely necessary tomorrow night. But there was one other name where you said, huh? So following the Amherst season, a bunch of players went up, called the Black Aces, and the Black Aces are just kind of practice guys. The Sabres get to work against NHL quality players. For instance, Devin Levi. Devin Levi has not begun his summer or off-season activities yet. He's up in Buffalo just practicing with the team. He's not active. But one player from the Amherst was practicing in Sabre gear today, not part of the Black Aces. That'd be Constant Helenius. As Constant Helenius, you recognize, okay, the guy's not even 21 yet, and he's got skill. And is this actually a move that the Sabres would consider? I myself would not do this. I would put Carrick back in place of Kozak. Kozak has played well, but Carrick gives you something else and a little bit more of a veteran. I would try that out maybe here from the get-go. But Helenius just kind of waiting in the wings, and I think you're doing this just in case. Just in case. All right, one series is down. You've got 2 more series to put down before you even get to the Cup final. And that might be another 7 games on top of that. The Stanley Cup playoffs, it's true in the NBA too, but they are excruciatingly long. So who knows what's going to happen along the way. Buffalo's only 25% to their goal. That's it. And you're hoping not there are no more injuries along the way, but to me, having Helenius on the team right now doesn't mean he's going to be active. It's just kind of a little bit of insurance. So that's your Sabre note. We'll talk to Derek Kramer coming up Bottom of hour number 2. Again, our number 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. We've got some interesting audio we've got to get to. We've got some other things. But do want to go back to something on the show yesterday, and that was, well, the passing and how it relates to our show of John Sterling. And I think the tributes from the baseball world, the tributes from the Yankees, everything's spot on. I mean, no one had anything negative to say about John Sterling. John Sterling was just the nicest guy, and I told the story the one time we had him on our show, and he couldn't have been more gracious, said nice things about Rochester. Just a real kind of guy that kind of enjoyed his corner of the world, right? And we wanted to do something different years ago for a breaking news sounder, and we used the breaking news sounder of him getting clunked in the head by a foul ball, kind of bounced off the table, hit him in the head. And it's kind of a funny sounder, but just now, all right, is this tasteless if we continue on with this? And I just put this out there, and it seems like I'm the only one I've encountered so far that says, wait, should we still kind of use this? Jack, who originally suggested this, and that is his real name, just got in the car and hit the app and the pod and heard the news of the passing of John Sterling. I vote to keep the breaking news sounder in respect. Ed wrote to me. You can write to me if you want to do that. Gene.Battaglia at Odyssey, AUDACY, said absolutely keep the John Sterling sounder. Tim, I'm thinking we're keeping it.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
I don't think you would be offended if somebody... Are we in such a world now where we're just worried about offending people all the time that this has gotten in my head that, honestly, like, we have to retire the John Sterling? How about this? We keep it until something comes along that, it's time for a change.
If we find something better, we will replace it respectfully rather than out of remorse.
Right. So, again, if anybody is offended by that or thinks it's in poor taste, but I think it stays for now, and the search for a new breaking sounder has commenced. And maybe we could use both. We can change it up, from time to time. So, all right. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, John. Thank you for everybody who wrote in and weighed in on this at WGR Rochester, or you can write in on YouTube or Twitch. While we're doing the show about this time yesterday, and sometimes we're doing this and things are going or on the air right at the same time we're talking, they held a press conference up in Toronto. And, boy, it's another reset for the Leafs, right? This is a franchise that hasn't won a cup since 1967. Let's put this into context, right? Well, it's been way too long since the Yankees. Yankees, 2009. The Cowboys, way too long. 1996? 95 season. How about the Lakers? All right, the bubble year, I suppose, with LeBron, if you want to count that. But the Lakers have many, many championships. The idea that the Toronto Maple Leafs have not won a cup in my lifetime, in many of our, that is unacceptable for a community that loves hockey as much, not in the continent, anywhere in the world. It's king up in Toronto. The whole city revolves around that one damn team, and they've never broke through. And Canadians, they're so nice people. For here, that would be unacceptable. And, well, maybe the times are changing, because here is the new GM being trotted out, and the Leafs are owned by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They're a big outfit, right? Kind of, conglomerate, and the Leafs being the jewel there, the arena, the Raptors, whatever. And the president of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, a guy named Keith Pelley. Never heard of Keith Pelley before yesterday. Don't follow it that closely. But when I play this is as awkward an exchange as you will ever hear at a press conference, because here's Keith Pelly introducing John Chayka. John Chayka, the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who he's in his 30s. And when it happened, I was like, oh, that guy. And by that guy, I remember the story. This is going back around circa 2017, 18. He's hired when he's 26 years old as the GM of the Arizona Coyotes. And it really is kind of like a Moneyball move, to kind of use the analogy of the movie. Somebody from the outside who's just data-driven and formed his own data analytics company up in Ontario and had great success with it. And the Arizona Coyotes said, let's take a different path and hire somebody new. And quite honestly, at 26, he wasn't ready for it because, well, there were some things he got his hand slapped for, most notably kind of breaking the rules of the combine, and Gary Bettman suspended him, and then it's the pandemic, and then John Chayka kind of goes away. And the Chayka name always kind of was in the forefront. If you're a Sabre fan, and if you listen to on our station, Sabres Live, or you see the intermissions, there's Megan Chayka. That's his older sister, and she's kind of a data-driven reporter and brings a kind of a new angle. I remember one time, this is going back like 2 years when the Sabres were down and out, and she's saying, you don't understand. Like between Byram and Power and certainly Rasmus Dahlin, this team is going to be special. Well, the Power thing, we're still not quite there. But Samuelsson, all right, kind of stepped up, and I guess we'll give her credit on that. But if you haven't heard this yet, just trust my judgment on this. This is Steve Simmons. He's a columnist for the Toronto Sun, kind of taking that I know more than you as the columnist sort of kind of line of questioning here for Keith Pelly. Just sit back and enjoy the awkwardness up in Toronto.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion that I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
Okay, there's so much to there. And then the video is, there's John Chayka sitting next to his boss, listening to this columnist call him a con artist, a liar, and a salesman. All right, let me work with the least objectionable, right? Because if you are listening to our show, chances are you might work in sales. Does anybody not take offense to that? I'm sorry. I just had to poke fun at that, Tim. I myself am a salesman. Am I a con artist, a liar? Like Brandon Bean is a salesman.
I think part of the job as a GM is to be a salesman.
Right, that doesn't make no sense. That is a columnist who gets a little over his skis, okay, with the emotion there. Because you hear his kind of voice quivering. You shouldn't be that nervous.
Those were quotes from somebody else, though. He's just relaying them.
That's not even relevant. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to assume also, too, that Keith Pelly, the president of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, is not a dumb guy. He's running a multi-billion-dollar outfit, and he's putting into position somebody he believes will get this team. Now, we should also point out that they paired Chayka with Matt Sundin. Well, that makes sense. Maybe get a hockey guy who works with the data guy and the analytics. But then, okay, maybe this Steve Simmons made this all up, but then I listened to Paul Bissonnette and the Spittin' Chicklets, and they also put Chayka on blast. I mean, again, what did he do other than break the rules at the NHL Combine? I'm going to tell you what he did, okay? And this kind of turns the mirror around on the hockey community. Ready? Whoop. He's an outsider. He's an outsider. And when Steve Simmons goes to the anonymous quotes, 19 out of 20, put it on blast, this guy took a shortcut getting into the league as a GM. Me, I had to ride buses. I had to, coach or be the GM in Springfield or Utica or wherever it was. I had to pay my dues. And this guy is a data guy. He's an egghead from the outside. I mean, hockey's so far behind. This is literally, again, the movie Moneyball from what I kind of view. Where here was Brandon Beane. I was a handsome guy or whatever, but but that was the whole thing. I'm going to try to do something different here. And the scouting community hated that guy. And he got rid of him. And is hockey that far behind? Data's everywhere in hockey. I'm just fascinated how this is all going to play out. And you know what? I'm actually rooting for John Chayka. You're in Toronto. Again, you have been doing the same dumb things since 1967. Who was the hot head coach they hired from Detroit, Tim? That, ended up getting you're going to hire somebody like that as a GM or a head coach? Who should have been the GM? I'm dumbfounded. Owen Parker, we had on the show yesterday, this morning on Jeremy and Joe, put on the point, wait a second. You had a sexual assault scandal in Chicago. Criminal activity in Chicago, all under Joe Quenneville's watch. And he gets another opportunity, yet nobody is calling him con artist, liar, anything. No, he won 3 cups. That's a guy who paid his dues.
Proven winner.
Proven winner.
Bad guy.
Did we figure out the coach?
Oh, yeah, Mike Babcock. The Sabres wanted him bad, too, then.
Yeah. The day and age is over. I'm sorry. The guy, Torts was that guy. Torts figured it out. That style of coaching does not, the letter Kenny, but no, does not work with this generation. Just does not. I mean, hell, Lindy has kind of figured it out. And that's why I think Lindy and Seth are kind of a great pairing, because Seth is totally, in tune with the younger generation. And Lindy has adapted. I'm not faulting, by the way, Steve Simmons. It takes guts to get up there and ask the question. But can he address the other side that hockey is the old boys club? Every sport is an old boys club. You could say most businesses are that way. But hockey really, really is. There's one way in, and that's starting with development. And this is where you kind of go, and you got to work your way up. And And for some guy to come in as an egghead, John Chayka, to do it that way. The only disclaimer I will say in my take here is, okay, what happened in Arizona that we don't know about? Did he commit a crime? Did he? To me, no. Con artist, liar? Wait a second. You're kidding me. People in sports lie? Marv Levy was a liar. We celebrate Marv Levy. He would lie about injuries. But that's part of the game. So I'm confused about the signal. Tim, if you could play this one more time for people that are just jumping in. This is Take of the Year material, this exchange from Steve Simmons and Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment President Keith Pelly. Simmons just putting on blast the hiring of the new GM, John Chayka.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion that I was able to come to in a very short time.
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
I'm going to give the president there. That's being presidential, not going down in the mud with him. This guy, Pelly. I don't want to become a Leafs fan, by the way. However, what if this works out? I guess, like, when Joe Torre got hired as the Yankees manager, one of the back pages, it might have been the Post, clueless Joe. Like, they just raked it. Look, this guy you're bringing in, we know better. Turned out to be the perfect fit. And, again, like, that's a columnist who gets a little emotional in his line of questioning. And granted, there are so many people in the profession that are jealous. And they could be a GM in, we'll pick a city, Columbus, Anaheim, wherever it is. That's the crown jewel of jobs. It really is, in terms of pay, in terms of pressure. The GM who brings that city a Stanley Cup, they'll build a statue. I'm not kidding. They will. Maybe right there. It'll happen right then and there.
In the moment, yeah.
In the moment. Get out the chisel.
It worked for the Cubs.
I honestly, like, it's so that there is so much jealousy. So much. And it's such an old boy network. And again, the problem with the hockey community is it's not open to everyone. Hockey's for everyone. Bull. It's not. It's an expensive sport. Ice time is limited. And because of that, you got to fight and claw for everything. And if you're somebody from the outside, no, you got to work your way in. And how dare this guy with his analytics company come in? And didn't you see he failed in Arizona?
He did have to forfeit a first-round pick at some point for something that he did.
That was him holding his own little mini combine, which turns out you can't do that. So, okay, he learned from that. But again, I don't know, that or sexual assault with the Blackhawks, but yet those guys got back in. I don't know. Matt Perino, we'll talk some Bills football coming up next. Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post Standard. Your calls as well. Always welcome at 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Game 1, round 2 tomorrow night. Buffalo hosting Montreal. Lindy Ruff this morning talking about the difference of facing the Boston Bruins and the Canadiens of Montreal.
I do think there'll be a lot more speed evident. I think they're going to come at us forechecking a lot harder than Boston did. I think that will be the biggest difference. And, off of that, a lot of times, if you're breaking the puck up well, your transition game can be better. And that would be the biggest difference I see right now.
Ruff on Jeremy and Joe this morning. Bills rookie camp beginning this Friday. Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post-Standard, to join us next year in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings begin a series tonight in Syracuse, first of 6 out in the Salt City. Yankees hosting the Texas Rangers. The Mets and Rockies in Denver. That has been snowed out. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
They're calling it one of the biggest May snowstorms ever in Denver. I'm like, geez, which I don't know how they're going to fit that in between the kazoo sound effect. That's how I feel about the Mets right now. They've won 3 of 4, but it's the Angels and Rockies that they've taken the 3 of 4 from. John Rahm has left Live Golf. He's returning to the DP World Tour. So that, Live Golf, do they even exist by the time we get to the end of the year? Probably, because the money will still be there. But the idea that that New Orleans tournament got postponed certainly does not bode well. Join us here, 585-866-4326. As he does every Tuesday, Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post-Standard, joining us. Rookie minicamp on the horizon. And, Matt, I got a bunch of Bills questions for you. But if we could just start here, it's I feel like we've turned into TMZ Rochester, not WGR Rochester, but just kind of going down that road. Because for the Buffalo Bills to get to where they need to be in 2026, I think step one is just reclaiming the division. That was kind of something like where we talk about things where this team fell short. You can trace it back to the loss in October, the loss in Miami in November. And to reclaim the division, you got to get past the New England Patriots. And I keep going back and forth here. Just a football question here, Matt. But does whatever is happening with Mike Vrabel's personal life actually affect that team and somehow benefit Buffalo? Matt, how are you today?
I am good. I think anytime that you have created kind of a national story that somehow over time is going to be something that continues to kind of pop up. I mean, it feels like this saga takes a different turn every day, every couple of days. And, we're in the part of it. I think the benefit to the Patriots is that it's happening at this time of the year and not, as the season is going, but as they get to training camp and they get into the season, I mean, this is going to kind of be looming. And at the same time, you have this run in the playoffs that the Patriots went on last year, while understanding that was probably about as poor quarterback play for a run to a Super Bowl as I can remember. I mean, it kind of reminds me, I don't even actually want to use the Joe Flacco example because he was good in that playoff run. Like, he was really good in that Ravens playoff run. And so it's a little bit different. It's like everywhere else it's been good. And I think the biggest question for the Patriots is at quarterback. I thought May, who had this MVP quote-unquote caliber season, he really trailed off at the end and really a lot in the end in the playoffs. So to me, that's a bigger storyline in terms of like why I'm placing the Bills back at the top of the pecking order in this division, is just because I don't necessarily fully buy into the quarterback after what I watched in January last year.
Yeah. I mean, we forget that the Bills went in there and they took care of business in December, but that the Patriots' schedule just so soft at the end of the season.
And he had a good first quarter. Like, remember, he ran for the 2 touchdowns, but as a passer, the Bills really made Drake May look pretty pedestrian in that game.
Matt, I don't want to take away your whole thunder here because ultimately we want people to go check out Syracuse.com, right? And you've got a very interesting article up today talking about the questions that remain on the roster as we've finished up the draft. The main part of free agency has concluded here. There's one I'd like to pick out, though, because it is a debate I think you could have here. What do the Bills have in Terrell Bernard, in your opinion? Because it certainly seems like, all right, what is going to be the competition? Because Bernard is a player. You've seen some plays like, okay, that's smart. Him stripping the ball, say for example, against Andrews, but that's 2 seasons ago, and then there's been a lot of injuries, and it's a new scheme here. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts here on the middle linebacker position, which you raise in your latest article at Syracuse.com.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think the Bills, aside from the Jim Leonard part of this conversation, and we really got to talk to him back in January after he got the job. We haven't talked to him since then, and Bernard didn't come up in that introductory press conference. I asked him about Benford. I kind of wish I would have asked him about Bernard, but maybe it's better that we waited till now when he's had time to really dive into his tape and figure out how to best maybe deploy him. I mean, Terrell Bernard played in a 3-4 scheme at Baylor, so that piece of it, holds up as to why they think he'd be the answer at middle linebacker for this defense. They just signed him to a contract extension, so the financial ramifications of moving off of him would be significant. And Brandon Beane actually even said, I think it was with Chris Brown on the day after the draft, or 2 days after the draft, One Bills Live, that linebacker was in play on day 2. There was just none of those players fell to the spot where the Bills were picking. And so that's something that at least tells you they were maybe kind of thinking about it. But the truth of the matter is they kind of want to try to make this Bernard thing work, because aside from drafting a player and making this work long-term with a new player in that position, Bernard's under contract this year, pretty much, and into the next year, I believe, as well. I don't have the contract figures right in front of me. So it would make sense to say, hey, we're spending some money at a couple different places, obviously at the quarterback position. We just gave this extension out to move off of it already, and that's what you'd essentially be doing. Like if you would have drafted a Jacob Rodriguez, like that is severe, stiff competition for Terrell Bernard, and maybe he ends up winning that job, and maybe you're able to kind of keep him or move him over and play him alongside a new middle linebacker. But I think that there's they believed in the player. He had a 2023 season that ultimately earned him the contract extension. He started all 17 games that year, led the team in tackles, had 6.5 sacks. Like, that's another piece to this Leonard puzzle that I want to figure out is, like, how can they get back into tapping into Bernard as a pass rusher through the gaps up the middle? And that's something that he did so well in 2023. So I think that it is a question, but by their approach at the position this offseason, my guess is that they're willing and comfortable to go into 2026 with Bernard at that spot.
When you look at the Bills last year, they weren't very good against the run. We can kind of agree on that, right? Not good against coming off on third down. How much do we pin on that? Toward Bernard, he's the team captain. He's the guy in the middle of that defense there. Or will the new scheme and a healthy Bernard help to fix some of those issues?
Yeah, so part of it is the health, right? Like he had a season in 2023 where I think that he was much better against the run. I think he's always kind of gotten dinged a little bit for his ability to diagnose, and that's something they're going to have to tap into a little bit more here with Jim Leonard's scheme. But I also think maybe a better plan around him and the diversity to which they call the defense might help them. I mean, what was the thing that people kept telling Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula and Josh Allen in all these interviews? Your defense was pretty easy to game plan against. You knew what you were going to get. You knew who was going to be lining up on the edge. You knew where Terrell Bernard was going to be, or Shaq Thompson, or Dorian Williams. So I think the idea is, sure, personnel matters, scheme matters, all that stuff is important, but also the ability to keep your opponent off balance. That's something that I think they're going to hope to tap into here a little bit more with Leonard. So I think they're banking on it. The injury piece is real, and I don't always love using that as an excuse, but we have a player in Bernard where his 2023 season, when you go back and watch it, I mean, I remember just raving about the guy on the heels of the Tremaine Edmonds experiment. That I don't want to call it a failure, but it was definitely one where you traded up in the first round and never felt like you got the kind of impact that you drafted that high for. Bernard came in here as a third-round pick, and in his second year took over that starting spot and quickly made everybody forget about Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, there were some big-time numbers in that first season as a starter, so they want to tap more back into that.
Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post-Standard, our guest here. Matt, you raise up another interesting question here, and this is one where when we get to the training camp portion, this is where fans kind of gravitate to, the wide receiver battle, particularly at the end, 5 and 6. How do we parse this out right now? Certainly Shakir has a slot, and we know DJ Moore, but beyond, I mean, are we to assume that anybody else has a spot that's really safe on this team? Certainly Skylar Bell, I would hope, would make the team as a fourth-round pick and show you something, but how would you assess the rest of the depth chart beyond those two, Matt?
Yeah, I think beyond that, just based on what we've heard from the organization this offseason, I think Keon Coleman's been positioned for a very big role again this year. And, hearing Brandon Beane kind of snuck this into he went on a media tour that week after the draft, and he went on a Canadian TSN podcast with Stevie Johnson, actually. And Stevie asked him about Keon, and one of the things that he said was, go back and watch him in training camp last year. Joe Brady was putting him out there as one of our top guys, and we were kind of starting to build the offense around him. And so you take that commentary, right? Like thinking about, everybody eats, but last year at the beginning of the year, they were thinking about Keon Coleman in the context of featuring him in this offense, an offense with a first-round draft pick in Dalton Kincaid, who we all thought for a while that was the plan, to maybe feature him in the offense. And I have to think that a year removed from that, and all the things that Brandon Beane and Joe Brady have said, bang the drum about how much they want Keon here, and going back to the fact that he's done enough at certain times to show the talent level, I think he's probably going to be the guy that runs out there, because at the very least, physically, availability-wise, I think you could trust Keon Coleman. You can't necessarily do that with Josh Palmer. And I know that there's some financial commitment there, but one of the things I was saying even before the draft is go out and add a couple of receivers, and if you get to a point where it gets so competitive and you need to make a tough roster decision, and Josh Palmer is a cap casualty at that, or a roster casualty at that point, so be it. And so I'm not necessarily willing to just say Josh Palmer gets that spot opposite DJ Moore, only because he struggled to even stay healthy in camp last year. The one guy I would say would be the biggest threat to Coleman, who and I don't want to put Bell there yet, only because haven't we kind of played this out before where they've drafted a guy and you come into training camp and you're penciling him in as a starter or a certain role, and they're starting off on the third-team defense or offense. I think of Cole Bishop in that way is probably one of the more recent examples where everybody thought, all right, he's taking over for Poyer, he's taking over for Hyde. You get to camp, and he's running with the third-team defense for a couple weeks. So I'm not willing to necessarily put Bell in any solidified role yet. If Tyrell Shavers hadn't torn his ACL, though, I think he would be somebody that would be top-tier competition for all of these other boundary options. The thing is with him is how quickly can he get back from that injury. I'm not putting it past him that he's going to do the work this offseason and give himself the best chance to be ready for training camp, but that would be just like record recovery for a guy that went down in January.
Yeah, Matt Perino joining us here. Matt certainly does. You talk about Brandon Beane doing media tours. You're giving us time every week. You do a lot of podcasts. You of course, you're part of the Buffalo Kickoff Live podcast, and you were recently on with Carl Jones, and he threw you a doozy here, Matt. And if you wouldn't mind me bringing this over here, because the doozy question he had that came up on that podcast: would you buy or sell on this year's Bills draft class? And I don't know if I'm allowed to answer the question this way, and I want to see, kind of get your thoughts. I know your thoughts here because I watched it. I would sell short term, because I don't know how many guys will help you be impact players here in 2026 for a team that really needs it. But overall, way too soon. And maybe some of these guys do develop. And if that's ultimately the goal, you just, then maybe this is a draft class that'll pop. Matt, how did you answer that question?
Yeah, it's tough. And, that was the first one he put towards me. And I think I didn't really know exactly, you can buy, shares, right? I didn't think of it, in that way. And that idea kind of got me, maybe I'll buy a couple of shares here. But I ultimately thought it was a buy or sell question. And so how I answered it was, I'm buying the process of how they landed on the positions and the specific players at the spots that they picked. And starting with TJ Parker, the thing that really set me back initially on him is that it felt like a regime who has done this before, right? AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, Landon Jackson, those kind of stiffer, stand-up, bigger outside linemen who just as quickly as you'll talk about their pass rush prowess, you'll be talking about their ability to defend the run. They've played this game before, and they've lost this game before. And I was a little bit more down on that position. Now, the more time I've spent learning about TJ Parker, and this is a guy that absolutely erupted at the Senior Bowl, and they also have a really good track record of tapping into maybe the year before's production, kind of a la a Deion Walker. His stock completely fell off the face of the earth in 2025, but in 2024, people were talking about him as a first-round pick. Parker, coming into the season, was expected to be one of the top edge rushers in this class. So I think if you look at it through that lens and thinking about how they ultimately, the process that landed him the player after 3 draft trade downs, where you add in all this extra capital and you manage a second-round pick while trading for DJ Moore, I'm buying all that on top of a day 3 starting 4th round that had everybody in the NFL community raving about the haul that Brandon Beane had in that round. And most people are talking about the linebacker, Elarms Orr, and the receiver, Bell. Bowery might be the best of that bunch when it's all said and done. And the kind of move that, or addition that I was kind of thinking about this offseason when I started talking about the Deion Dawkins conversation, which kind of took on a life of its own. But, this is the kind of thing you have to start thinking about. Deion Dawkins, when he was drafted back in 2017, he came in as a tackle out of Temple, second-round draft pick, and he moves into guard initially before Cordy Glenn is ultimately traded, and we kind of know his historic career since then. And I remember that first training camp and, going out and trying to win a job, and you don't really know what's going to happen with these young players, what opportunities are going to – the Bills have been so healthy at tackle in the Dawkins-Brown era. I thought last year was the first one where we really start to see depth tested a little bit, and Alec Anderson answered the bell and Vandermark answered the bell. But, Bowery is a really intriguing guy, and some of the tape highlights that I've seen kind of scattered out since the draft, this is a guy that they were super high on. And I'm surprised they traded back 1 pick. They must have been pretty sure the Raiders weren't going to take him, because from all accounts that I've heard is this is one of the favorite picks of the draft. And so I think he's going to be in the mix at left guard initially, because you got Dawkins, you got Brown, and if he's one of your best 5 and you want to get him on the field, what better way than to get him in at left guard? And Ryan and I talked about this on our show yesterday. He talked about those questions, if we were setting the odds on who's going to win this left guard job, I'd probably start with Austin Corbett, but it's a guy who's been really banged up over the last couple of years, and making it through a 17-game schedule is very much in question if he does end up winning the job. And I think Bowery's positioned to be a guy that, if you were to tell me at the end of 2026 which rookie made the biggest first-year impact, and you told me it was Bowery, I wouldn't call you crazy.
Wow, that's interesting. Not Alec Anderson, huh? Or would you say he's in the mix too with the left guard?
He's definitely in the mix. The thing that I worry about with Anderson is that he's so valuable as that first guy off the bench, can play all 5 positions. You can't just find that in a guy. he's given them the jumbo role. He's given them like really good utility interior play. I mean, he's played some center for them. When Connor McGovern went down, he went in. His performance in that game against the Steelers last year at right tackle was unbelievable. If they didn't have Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, who knows? Maybe he's in the mix to compete for one of those jobs. And you hate to put a guy in a backup role because of their versatility, but that is really important. And Brown, don't forget, he had those back problems, right? You always worry about him missing any kind of time and the kind of hole that opens up. I think having a guy like Anderson available to go, because Tyler Grable is mostly an unknown. Chase Lunt, unknown. Even Bowery, who I'm very high on, an unknown. We know that Alec Anderson has been game for the challenge every time he's been given a different role, especially a tackle, that I like that versatility.
Matt, last one. It is rookie minicamp Friday, and I don't know if you're heading out Friday. It'll be open to the media there.
I'm in a conundrum here, Gino.
All right, what's up?
I'm going to game 2. And so rookie minicamp practice is at 2:15. It's a little bit late in the day. So I'm going to go because I have to. I got to go to practice. I go see these rookies, go talk to them. I think the podcast, though, is going to be the next day because I'm going to go from the facility, grab my cousin who I'm going to the game with, and then we're just going to head down.
Wow. So I have to ask you don't have to give numbers or anything like that. How did you score the tickets there, Matt?
My cousin's father, my uncle, has season tickets. And him and but my other cousin, he plays baseball at St. John Fisher, Port. And he's a senior. They're in the playoffs, and this is, this might be his last chance to watch his kid play ball. So my uncle, who would be going to the game, he is going to be, I believe it is maybe in Albany. I can't remember exactly where the tournament is, but he's going to be there, so I'm going to go to the game.
Yeah. Coach Potter, Fisher, good friend of the show. Matt, we'll have fun. I guess my question would be, like you mentioned Bowery, like give me a couple guys that, when you're going out there on Friday, like, okay, I really am, whether it's one of these 10 draft picks or maybe somebody that is undrafted that we would love to learn a little bit more about.
Jermaine Burton is going to be maybe the top attraction. That is a very intriguing addition to rookie camp and continues kind of the conversation around maybe the different approach to, non-starters when it comes to like character concerns in the past regime might, be some open for more evaluation in this new regime. Obviously, Brandon Beane and company are still here, but, maybe Joe Brady is bringing a kind of a different outlook to things. The talent is unquestionable, but I'm also, and Ryan brought up this point on the podcast this week, and so I don't want to steal his thunder, give him that credit. The cool thing about having a guy like Burton in a rookie minicamp setting like this, it's going to put a lot of real shine on these rookie cornerbacks. So Igbinosun, the kid, Pry Jr., the 7th-round draft pick, these guys are going to get a chance to work against some really a talented guy. And then obviously Skylar Bell will be there too. So if we get a chance to see some one-on-ones, that is going to definitely be worth the price of admission, I think.
So, Matt, we mentioned the questions, that article that you have out. I would invite everybody to check that out at Syracuse.com. What else may be coming up? I would assume whatever we can find out this weekend. When does the next Shout podcast drop?
Yeah, so we got the rookie minicamp coverage. Will come at you Friday and Saturday. I think we're going to do one more little dive this week on what's left on the free agent market. Although you look at the Bills roster, they're at like 92 if all of the reported UDFAs are actually legit. Maybe one of those fell through and they're actually at the 91. Obviously things will crystallize a little bit more after rookie minicamp, but not a lot of roster movement ability at this point. But we've seen it in the past where they'll sign all their UDFAs, they'll do rookie camp, and maybe a bet or two will kind of come aboard and they'll make room and they'll move on some of the UDFAs. So really important weekend coming up just in terms of like that final phase of at least this part of the roster. Roster construction never ends, but this phase of it, I think the next week or so will be really important.
Great stuff as always. Appreciate the time, Matt, and really enjoy it Friday night, bud. That's going to be a lot of fun for you.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout podcast, our guest here, as joining us here on the show. We will get to terrible time Timmy's terrible to take. And got a couple notes on two former Bills, and neither of them are good.
I know one of them.
Okay, you know one of them. The other one, I'm like, oh, you're kidding. Oh, this is disturbing. And again, these are allegations. One actually. Well, we'll get to it. All right, we haven't mentioned anything. Your call, 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia with you on WGR Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Springtime hockey tomorrow night in Buffalo. The Sabres hosting the Canadiens. Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff talking about his counterpart, Montreal coach Martin St. Louis.
Everything about the numbers made sense that you got two teams that were 2-2 against each other. And you got to give that team a lot of credit. You got to give Marty St. Louis a lot of credit for the job he's done with that group of guys. We've got, basically two young teams going at it here that's going to be great hockey.
Rough on Jeremy and Joe this morning. Practice notes from today. Sam Carrick back at practice, as was former Amber Consta Helenius. Bills rookie camp beginning this coming Friday. Rochester Red Wings tonight begin a series in Syracuse. The Yankees homestand continuing tonight. Next up, it's the Texas Rangers. The Mets and Rockies in Denver snowed out. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have things much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres, Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports bar for Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2, we're high stepping in. Beautiful day here in the Flower City from the High Falls Studios. Welcome once again, Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider, our fine producer, the pride of Fairport, the pride of Hilton. Dan DeLorean helping us just stay on track. The train is on time today. We'll talk to Derek Kramer, bottom of this hour. A little Sabres hockey as we get you set up for tomorrow night, which we will have the pregame tomorrow beginning at 6. But let's be honest, the whole station is a pregame show for the Buffalo Sabres these days, and it's refreshing, right? This is a lot of fun. Matt Perino is going to be going to game number 2. Will be joining us every Tuesday up until we get to the end of June. Matt Perino joining us as he normally does. Great stuff from Matt today. If you missed that, just download the Odyssey app. You can go back in time, or Dan DeLorean will have that up wherever you get your fine audio. 2 games tonight in the NBA. One I'm not really excited about, which is kind of a shame because it has a Rochester guy in it, right? Cleveland, Detroit, Stewart's there. That's at 7.
Thomas Bryant, too.
Yeah. But then you have Lakers. Thank you, Tim. Lakers and OKC. And that has the old guard versus the new guard kind of feel. No Doncic tonight. OKC's probably going to make quick work of this. Honestly, doesn't it feel like – am I jinxing this when I say this? We are slowly marching to an OKC Knicks final, and the world will just be fine. Because what the Knicks are doing right now, last 3 games combined in NBA history, the margin, the total for the Knicks have put up, that is the widest in NBA history. It's not a surprise they beat the Hawks, right? It's a surprise that after kind of farting around, they decided, okay, let's kind of pick ourselves up here. And for a coach that already was rumored to be on his way out after year 1, Mike Brown, that's a pretty good start last night at home against the Sixers for sure. And if the Knicks get by this, does Cleveland or Detroit, should they really scare the Knicks? And for OKC, all right, what's on the other end? On the back end of that, is it Minnesota? We will keep an eye on the NBA from time to time. Hopefully I didn't steal his thunder. The beauty of our next segment is I never know. I don't cheat. Honestly, I don't know what take Tim is going to expose us with, whether this will enlighten me or just make me angry.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
As always, a solidly unscripted segue because I don't want to talk NBA. I want to go back to what you opened with the Buffalo Sabres because I'm still revved up from Friday. Friday has me going. They don't play until tomorrow. I've been thinking about it for 4 days. And we've got the stars. You've got Darlene. You've got Tage Thompson. You've got Alex Tuck. But the players that are going to get this team to where they want to be are the players like Josh Doan and our best boy, Zach Benson.
Mm-hmm.
The depth of this roster is going to carry the Buffalo Sabres as far as they are going to go. And it doesn't matter who the goalie is. I think that they've made their decision on Alex Lyon. I don't think you go back to UPL, which I had said as soon as it happened. But the secondary players on this team, the middle six, are going to carry the Buffalo Sabres possibly to all of the glory. And that's despite saying yesterday the Carolina Hurricanes are a powerhouse. But right now, the Buffalo Sabres, that one singular play that gave Benson the goal, the Doan play to Benson in the slot, that play has been in my mind for 4 days, and I just want to talk about it a little bit more.
Well, it's fair enough, because that wasn't against the Bruins' fourth line. That was Pasternak. And then Pasternak pointing like, missed assignment. But hey, you're the leader on that team. And that line beat you. It's going to come down to the power play. I think if the Sabres get like one power play goal as they did in this past series, and mind you, Tim, like, okay, there was another one where, a guy just stepped right out of the box, but it doesn't count. They're going to be doomed because Montreal this is a different animal. Montreal, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Much better team than Boston. Boston in some spots, slow. Montreal's going to match that speed. Hostile environment. With a capital H. You're going up there, Bell Center. The whole town is going to be just ramped up. I'll say this, though. If the Sabres get by Montreal, they are getting to the Cup final. I don't know if they can beat Colorado, and I'm already penciling them. Is that fair?
It's reasonable.
Reasonable.
I don't know if it's fair, but it's a logical thought.
Yeah, like, honestly, but Sabres in 7.
Signing up for that too.
Sabres in 7.
Would love to have it be in 4, but
this is going to go to the distance. This is going to be. There's going to be twists and turns. And you're going to be nauseous. You're going to lose sleep. We might have some overtime, which would be fantastic. There were parts of Montreal's game that were just very weird, though. Like, I'd like to know more from like an X and O standpoint, what Montreal was actually doing or what they weren't doing in that second period against Tampa. Like they were not taking any chances. They were playing not to lose, and in the end, it paid off. If you're going to do that against Buffalo, guess what? You're going to have your guys kind of jump in a little bit more. You just can't be just relying on forecheck and hoping the Sabres turn the puck over, because they don't do that quite often. Tampa will be a team, and Boston will do. Like, this matchup is going to be fantastic. The thing that could hurt whoever comes out of this, though, Tim, is, or maybe it's a benefit, how long is Carolina going to have to wait? Like, are they going to Carolina is going to be like, well, we swept Ottawa and we swept Philadelphia. Kind of stretch there. Are they going to be waiting around a week for this? That might actually work in Buffalo's favor or Montreal's favor, to have a team that has to wait that long and then shake off the rust there.
Yeah, it is only a 2-day difference between what the Sabres had compared to the Canadiens, but it does feel like 5 days. And maybe it's just because I'm still amped up from Friday, but it feels like so long.
Oh, it's so long ago. Like, I don't think Philadelphia makes this a series. That was their chance.
They tricked us yesterday.
That was their chance. They were up 2-0. And the weird part of that was, in overtime, you're watching that, and, no, the goaltender, there's contact there. Are they actually going to call this? And you see him just kind of waiting, and everybody kind of waiting, and then, okay, there's no situation room. We're not going to tell that. And for folks who don't know, you can't challenge in overtime. That automatically goes up, like they take control of that. So it's not like, people were saying that with the Pasternak offside. No, Lindy can't challenge that. Now, that one, to me, it doesn't matter now. Sabres won the series. That looked offside. Spirit of the law, letter of the law. We don't want, skates coming off a blue line and calling it offside. But if you're going to call that in the regular season, you certainly as hell should call it in the postseason. And Boston got away with one on that. But on the other hand, again, doesn't really matter. Last night, that was a good goal. It was just like in real time. There was just so much contact in front. Like, wait a second. That goalie gets shoved out of the way. It's like, no. Actually, that puck was free before any of that happened. Thank you, Tim, very much. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. Now, I told you about a couple notes about former Buffalo Bills in the news. And we'll start with the story we touched on yesterday because, boy, oh boy, what a difference a year makes. If you go back in time, it was actually 2 years for Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs showing up before he becomes a real full-fledged Houston Texan, and he's on the Upper East Side, not to be confused with the Upper West Side, the Met Gala. Wow, fantastic. There's Stephon Diggs and showing his flair, right? And we had the Met Gala last night, and the only picture I saw was like Katy Perry wearing some fencing mask. I'm like, what is this? Why is this even called fashion? You look weird. You're not going out in public like that. I digress because the story is about Diggs. Diggs is on trial. And the trial, day one, this is open to reporters. And I don't want to, we'll kind of wait for the whole process on this. But what I'm going to bring up here is, we knew that Stephon Diggs and Cardi B had a child last year. Okay. And good for them. And I don't know where they are in their relationship. And quite honestly, I don't care where they are in their relationship, but I hope they're both good parents, right? Well, I don't know if this was discovery phase or whatever it was, but it came out in court that Stephon Diggs also had a child with a woman named Aileen Lopera. Well, okay, that's 2 children, 2 different women. Diggs also had a child last year with Kayana Barber. That's 3 children with 3 different women. You think I'm going to stop this bit? Oh, no. K. Benji, number 4. 4 children with 4 different women. When I think of greatest knuckleheads in Buffalo Bills history, Travis Henry comes to mind. Because Travis Henry actually went to jail, right? But he was known for this thing. Eric Moulds, again, as the late Chuck Dickerson would call him, Father of the Year for doing things like this. And for Steph Diggs, these are choices you're making? A lot of the stuff that came out in court yesterday, it's going to wrap up quick here. And again, the allegation against Diggs is that he put his former chef in a headlock. Okay. Now, the allegation was that, from the defense was, they had some sort of romantic relationship at some point. Okay, what does that have to do with an allegation against domestic violence? But they're trying to build a story. I don't know. This next one where, all right, if you had to pick former Buffalo Bills that you would think would be Boy Scouts, all right, Ivy League, playing at a high level in the NFL, 2nd-round pick, Buffalo Bills, and then going on to have a really nice career in media, first with ESPN, and for years you heard him contributing on Mike and Mike, and then up until recently for Fox News, maybe Fox Sports. He's been over at Fox. I think he still is. Former Buffalo Bill and Columbia grad Marcellus Wiley has been accused of sexual assault by 4 individuals, including a former ESPN production assistant. And this story is not from The Athletic. It's not from ESPN. It's from the Rolling Stone, which means, okay, Marcellus Wiley, does he fit the bill of somebody that we all thought was a good guy but turned out was doing these horrible, horrible things? 2 of Wiley's accusers allege that he has sexually assaulted them from 95 to 99 in California. this is the one where, like, oh, boy. One of the accusers says that Wiley began grooming her when she was 13 years old. And that when she turned 18, she is accusing him now of rape. So where this story goes, it's certainly not good. And again, this is all according to the Rolling Stone. But, yeah, Marcellus Wiley has some issues to kind of deal with. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. As, that's, I don't have, in our TMZ sports segment of the day, anything really to share on Rossini or Vrabel, Tim. I think finally the well has run dry. Now, Mike Florio, not to be confused with our friend Michael F. Florio, but this is Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, continues to beat the drum that at some point Rossini will accept a sit-down invite and tell her side of the story. And I'm not sure that even happens, because if she is truly in love with Mike Vrabel, does she want, her career is wrecked, his is not. Like, the second that she talks, if that indeed happens, she's going to own the news cycle. Are you kidding me? For any network that lands that, any podcast that lands that, hey, coming up tomorrow, Diane Rossini, wow. And the sporting world would just kind of stop. And as tempting as that might be for Rossini to fire back at her critics and to set the record straight on some things that I'm sure maybe aren't accurate, I mean, why would you do that? Like, at some point, we're going to move off of this. When we're joined by Matt Perino, I think he's right. It's like, when we get to the football season, hey, the issue for the Patriots isn't Mike Vrabel. The issue for the Patriots is, go look at Drake May last playoffs. Drake May was bad against the Chargers, horrible against the Texans, did nothing against the Broncos, and somehow wound up in the Super Bowl. There's no justice. He's absolutely right. That is like the worst kind of 3-game performance for any quarterback that backed his way into the Super Bowl. Now, was he hurt? Was there something else going on? I don't know, but the focus is going to be on that guy, Drake May, who has yet to throw for 300 yards in this league, but somehow finished second in MVP voting. I'm not worried about the Patriots next year. I'm really not. Like, the Patriots are the ultimate blip on the radar. And that was a missed opportunity for the Buffalo Bills, 100%. But if we're looking ahead, please, bet the Buffalo Bills to win the division if you're going to be into the action. Like, that's the smart play right now. Like, this is a Bills team that will have a new attitude with a new head coach, and we can, relitigate. All right, should you have let go of Bean? Should you have brought in somebody new other than Brady? It's going to have a different feel this year. And because of that, everybody else is going to be just kind of sitting up a little bit more straight. And I am excited. Tim, you don't share this sentiment. I do. We are right in the middle of Sabres talk, and it's fantastic. But you know what's going to happen? I don't think it's next week. I think it's the following week, leading into Memorial Day weekend. We'll have the NFL schedule. And the NFL schedule, it's so damn important when you play teams. In particular, all right, I know the Bills aren't going to open up at home against Kansas City, but imagine if they did. The NFL will never do that because they want to make sure that Patrick Mahomes is ready for a head-to-head matchup with Josh Allen. That's why it's really not a computer just spinning out things randomly. It's really designed to get you watching. And because of that, I'm not sure the Bills are going to be handed this nice, comfy schedule this year. There might be a Christmas Day game. You might be playing on a bunch of Thursdays. I know the Bills don't have to go overseas, so that's a good thing because as much as I would like to go to Europe, that's, logistically kind of disrupts a team a little bit. But the Bills are still, as long as Josh Allen is here, they are a primetime team. And the league wants to showcase this new stadium. Hey, you can't get this done in Chicago? Look what they did in little old Buffalo. Ha, ha, ha. So, to me, that's an exciting time here coming up. But the excitement of the stadium, the new head coach, Josh Allen being healthy here, all reasons to think, it's the season for optimism. The sun is out, and it's shining on the Buffalo Bills. So, Bills fans, you can smile. It's going to be a long, long road. But I can't wait for that schedule to come out here. What I anticipate, not next week, but the following week. Derek Kramer, we'll get his thoughts, maybe a little on the Bills, but we'll talk a little hockey with him as well. And then last call is for you. 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia on WGR Rochester.
Sports Update.
Game 1 tomorrow night, Buffalo hosting Montreal. Talking to head coach Lindy Ruff this morning, Jeremy and Joe, on the differences between Boston and Montreal.
I do think there'll be a lot more speed evident. I think they're going to come at us forechecking a lot harder than Boston did. I think that will be the biggest difference. And, off of that, a lot of times, if you're breaking the puck up well, your transition game can be better. And that would be the biggest difference I see right now.
Sam Carrick back on the practice ice today. Also joining the team, former Amer Consta-Helenius. Bills rookie camp coming up this Friday. Rochester Red Wings tonight begin a series in Syracuse. First of 6 against the Mets. The parent club, the Mets, they're snowed out tonight in Denver. Snow postponing that game. Yankees homestand continuing against the Texas Rangers. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the fun things about this Sabres season is there have been so many contributions coming from the Amerks. Could we have another? Or is it just kind of a case of, all right, let's... This guy is in case of break glass in case of emergency. Joining us on the show right now, Derek Kramer. Derek, thanks for the time today. And I think Constellanius is the future, and I don't think there's any harm. I think it's actually a good thing. Like, he's not a black ace here. He's on the practice ice today. I would be stunned if the Sabres went this route here, or maybe this is something they're tinkering with. Your thoughts here, Derek, on Helenius as well as Carrick, the possibilities of how the Sabres might change the lineup. Derek, how are you today?
Gene, we're talking about round 2, man. Let's get it going. And it's great to know that we are indeed talking about a round 2. It's not a postmortem sort of thing, but when it comes to Helenius being on the ice tonight, or this afternoon, and Carrick being back, of course, I actually theorized something about this earlier today on the Extra Point show on WGR in Buffalo.
Also in Rochester, just so you know. So
also in Rochester, yes. But it was more or less, I suspect that Helenius might be more of the insurance policy for the middle 6. A player who could play center or wing, depending on if there's any sort of injury. Obviously, Norris having an injury history is the first person that many people would think of in this sort of thing. But, it's the playoffs. People pick up these kinds of injuries all the time. I mean, Osland ends up in the lineup, plays great, and then he's back out of the lineup, unfortunately. But, they do need another middle 6 player that can plug into any one of the lines comfortably. And I do think that that's what they would be wanting to work Constellanius into. Sam Carrick, that one's easy. Kozak, I appreciate what you've done so far, but that's a massive upgrade in the face-off circle, as well as the way Carrick was playing with the Sabres kind of gives a little bit more skill to a fourth line that, honestly, it would be nice to have that extra punch.
Yeah, I think, Kozak, certainly an all-effort guy, but Carrick, when he showed up on the scene, this is really interesting. What Kekalainen did at the trade deadline, because we look at Stanley, but the move for Carrick, these weren't, the big swing. Like, people outside the area are saying, oh, Panarin. No. You don't need a Panarin. They need more these sort of guys, these sort of glue guys. And Carrick, that's a great pickup for them at the trade deadline, Derek.
Carrick, they even got more than they bargained for. I mean, the guy scores 5 goals in 13 games, and all of a sudden the fourth line becomes a problem. And it didn't matter who he had necessarily on his line. It was nice to have Zach Benson down there and having the depth to have Benson down there. But, there's a game where it's him, Malenstein, and Tanner Pearson. And Pearson gives him a great feed, and he buries that one too. So the interesting thing, though, was his shot rate with the Sabres. He had 19 shots in 13 games. I might have looked at his page a little bit with my show earlier today, but it's very fascinating to know, though, that with Carrick coming back, the fourth line can suddenly get a jolt of offense that it could be needed against the Montreal team that had its fourth line going against Tampa Bay.
Derek Kramer, our guest here. You hear him on the Extra Point show, and certainly on Saturday. He'll set you up for what will be coming up here for the rest of the week on your proud affiliate here in the Flower City. Derek, before we preview Montreal, final word on Boston and that play on the level of dirtiness by Benson, because okay, we could call that a slew. Aren't there degrees of slew-footing somebody? Because what McAvoy did there, certainly in my opinion, didn't warrant that sort of retaliation. What Benson did didn't require that retaliation from McAvoy.
It's, you know what, you're mad. You felt contact at your feet, so you could assume the worst in that kind of thing. Also, with a player with the reputation that Benson has, I understand why McAvoy was upset. He still chose the one path of violence that will get you a suspension. Because in no rule books is there any interpretation about an overhand smack with a stick. If he just punched him, there's no conversation to be had. And everyone kind of just looks at Benson and goes, yeah, you're kind of the jerk in this, little guy. And no, instead McAvoy does, like I said, the one thing that's not a hockey play. Like, people could argue about Benson if that's a hustle play, anything like that. I do think it was a slew foot. It's okay to admit these things, but it's also a little bit of a sending the message, because earlier in that game, McAvoy buries Doan's head into the boards on Benson's goal. And, you know, McAvoy all throughout the series, the low bridge on Malenstein in game 2 is still kind of one of the more upsetting plays. Like, yeah, the Zadorov thing happened, but I'm sorry, you're up 4-0 and you low bridge Malenstein. That's especially dirty on your end too. So that's Benson sending the final message, in addition to, yeah, we got the win, and also I outworked you. Oh, and I might have not had a need to do it, but I did.
Yeah, if McAvoy after that simply goes over and then just says to his teammates, clear the dance floor, and throws down the gloves, like that to me would have like at least got the credit. Okay, we lost the series, but we're not going to tolerate that. I mean, but emotion got the best of him, Derek. Honestly, like that to me, that's the difference. The stick is a weapon. Like if he connects there, we're talking Donald Brashear type of stuff here in the NHL. Certainly can't have any of that.
And that's why he's got a conversation with the NHL Department of Player Safety, which I'm still surprised he got one, because I don't think George Peros does a good job with it. But by the way, looked at another play that was even dirtier than that one, I think, when Ridley Grieg punched, uppercut someone who was already in a scuffle with somebody else.
Yeah.
That only got 2 games. So let's be prepared for that suspension for McAvoy to be disappointing.
Yeah, well, it'll be kind of a footnote there, because we're all jazzed up here for what is going to happen tomorrow night. Again, the only place where you can actually get the Dunleavy and Rob Ray call is on WGR, as now that they will be just doing radio exclusive here. And, of course, we'll have the call here in Rochester on our fine affiliate. Derek, as far as Montreal, it's a different animal. It's a team that I think we can all agree better than Boston, faster than Boston. What has to happen for Buffalo in this series to get by the Canadians?
Be ready for the uncomfortable feeling of, oh, this team can skate with you. Montreal is young. They are fast. They are deep. I just mentioned there was a fourth line of Kirby Dach with Zach Balduc and Alexandre Tessier. They were kind of the reason that Montreal stays alive. Each of them had at least 3 points in the series against Tampa. They were fantastic. Kirby Dach, also a player that he's still a relatively skilled guy. He's playing fourth-line minutes right now, though, in a Montreal lineup that you can kind of afford to do that. I think that there's a lot of interesting circumstances here. They have the star power with that top line, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky. They have some high-end skill on defense with Lane Hudson and Noah Dobson. It's going to be, this team can skate with you. Play your game, outwork your opponent, and then I think goaltending's even. Everything else seems relatively even. This is going to be a fun series. Gene, we talked about this, several months ago?
Yeah.
The thing that I said was Buffalo-Montreal would feed families. Well, break out the plates, because I'm eating.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, to think that, Derek, when we started this journey, it's like All right, the Sabres, we weren't penciling them in for the division. We were thinking, all right, I mean, Montreal, how would that look? And, well, we don't have to worry about Tampa. And quite honestly, if we're looking at this bigger picture, maybe my opinion will change, but I don't think what Boston was kind of engaging, we saw Tampa kind of engaging, like, okay, we're going to just be, hitting after the whistle and doing the little dirty stuff here. I don't know if Montreal is that team, Derek, but for that reason, I think that, if the Sabres are coming out of this, they'll be better off and more ready for a Carolina team, which, by the way, I've already penciled into the conference final here.
Oh, well, there's scheduling talk that I might have a nuclear take or two at 7 o'clock tonight. So if we are able to get the nightcap over here, you guys will hear that as well. But yeah, the series though, like Montreal does have some guys though that can get in a little bit of the nasty. You've got Brendan Gallagher, who is Zach Benson before Zach Benson. You have a guy like Josh Anderson, big body, always willing to throw it. Arbor Zekaj, the Zekaj name, I know Buffalo and Rochester fans know very well because the series against Laval, Arbor Zekaj was one of those, and his brother also was a pain in the physical aspect as well. So very familiar. Get re-familiarized with the name because Zekaj is not going anywhere, unfortunately so. But this should be a fun series. I think the NHL is going to get exactly what they want out of this series, which is high pace, fast action. I do wonder if there's going to be a good amount of goal scoring in this one as well, because you've got teams that are willing and capable of playing a fast back and forth counterattack hockey that, like I said, I'm eating good when it comes to this series. I'm glad it's not Tampa because the quality of hockey that we're going to watch is going to be better.
So is this going to be a detriment or something that Carolina will welcome? Because you could argue this either way. And I'm just looking ahead here. I don't think the Flyers are going to stand up. I hope I'm wrong on that. But you could have the Hurricanes on Saturday night wrapping this up, which means, Derek, we'll be only through 2 games in a series between Buffalo and Montreal. We expect they're going to be long. You could have Carolina conservatively sitting around with it for a week and not have anything to do here.
That could be too much time off because we learn it every year, Gene, or with every team. This player's been playing with this ailment. This player's been playing with this injury. This player's had this setback. And it's like major stuff. If you're not playing hockey for 9 days, does that major ailment now suddenly turn into a major problem that you're not really fighting through because you're not in the day-to-day, every other game adrenaline?
Yeah, I honestly, you always see this like, oh, they're going to be rested, they're going to be ready. I'm like, no, actually, I will say this, Derek, and it might be an unpopular take, and I can say these things here in Rochester because I don't, you say this in Buffalo, then people in Carolina will get the tape and they'll say, ho, 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 look at the Buffalo guy, look at him past Carolina. I would say this. I think that Montreal will prove to be a tougher opponent than Carolina.
Carolina's got something to prove because that is something about the Hurricanes that really needs to change for them this year, or changes should be made. Buffalo or Montreal, whichever team makes it through this playoff series, the pressure is going to be on the Hurricanes because that is a group that has won 1 conference finals game since 2006. And Rob Brindamore gave one of the weirdest answers last year saying like, oh, people thought that we were going to get swept, and we didn't. That's not what happened here. That wasn't the story. And first of all, that's a weird stance to take. Second, Carolina runs through the Metropolitan Division every time that they do this and gets humbled by a team in the Atlantic Division. If that happens to Carolina again, you've got to look long and hard as the organization and think about a reset. That means Brindamore probably has to go, and you're probably going to be moving on from older pieces like maybe an Aho or a Slavin, who the latter of whom is in his 30s. So it's going to be a very uncomfortable time if Carolina doesn't beat either Montreal or Buffalo, because they're already seen as the quote-unquote Bills of the NHL. This could be worse if you once again can't even make a series out of the Eastern Conference Final.
Well, that would be a shame. I don't know.
It would be a shame. You hate to see it, right, Gene?
Hate to see it.
Hate to see it.
I got to ask your take on the Bills because we will have rookie minicamp, and it's funny how the space for the Bills in my mind and a lot of fans' mind, it's just the Sabres have taken over for good reason. But we do have rookie minicamp coming up, and I do have a question for you about the wide receivers because coming out of that draft, okay, Parker, sure. IGB, okay, you needed that. Bowery, it's the Skylar Bell pick. And as I'm trying to determine, all right, what's the pecking order of the wide receiver room here? Certainly DJ Moore and certainly Khalil Shakir. How does everything else kind of play after that? Because Palmer, he's here because of the contract. Coleman, we don't know. Skylar Bell, we don't know. There might be some other guys I might be missing here. How do you play the rest of the room here for the Buffalo Bills when it comes to the wide receiver depth chart?
I'm going to guess something that the Bills are operating on, and I'm going to apologize to every listener right now. I think Keon Coleman's going to be a focal point. And more so than Skylar Bell, more so than Josh Palmer, and it is very much clearly showing that all that speak wasn't damage control over, the press conference comments. This is straight up. No, they actually still believe in Keon Coleman. They're going to use Keon Coleman. They're going to try to make sure there's a role for Keon Coleman. So I'm sorry to anyone that is now swearing at their console or their station or other listening device, but that's what the Bills seem to be operating on.
Well, that's fine if he shows up. And the weird part is, week 1 against Baltimore, was it 8 catches, 110 yards, touchdown, or 2-point conversion? Okay, here we go. This is what you were hoping for. And you could say, well, that was against a corner that really was on one foot. I don't care. He was out there on an NFL field. And then after that point, if it's Coleman, fine, but there better be a plan B. And I'm just wondering how quickly can we get Skylar Bell ready as a plan B here, Derek?
I do think Bell's going to be pretty ready for this, and I think it's a pretty common sentiment now looking hindsight into that draft class. Man, Brandon Beane flipped the entire attitude about that draft class with his 4th round. I love when he picks an offensive lineman every year and you get a swing player like Bowery, and then Bell and Elarms or back-to-back picks on those, and those are guys that will challenge for snaps. I think Elarms or might challenge for a starting position. Bell can challenge right away for getting some meaningful time as a vertical threat. It's all of a sudden oh, right, I forgot. Brandon Beane does his best work on Saturdays in the draft. And this draft class looks like that is no exception to the rule.
Derek, tell everybody. So the nightcap tonight, we might hear you. Who makes the ultimate call on what lands in the nightcap?
So right now, as the Sabres are continuing on, the nightcap is becoming a special edition Sabres playoff edition of the nightcap. It's extended. It is Zach Jones along, and then Joe Callie and I are joining in on those. And those are non-Sabre game days during the weeknights at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, there's the Extra Point Show. I'm on there with Zach Jones 10 to noon, which you can hear right here on WGR in Rochester, Buffalo, or, on the Odyssey app, wherever you are in the world.
Well, what Paul Hamilton was bringing up is what's the next market you're going to take over
here? Let's see.
We came up with
whichever
Erie.
one.
Erie seems like a good place. That would be WGR Erie.
Whichever one wants us, really, is how you want to look at it at that point. But yeah, so there's a lot going on right now. If you hear my voice a lot, I'm sorry. I apologize for everyone, but no, it's a busy time right now. It's a great time, and it is fun doing the 2 shows during certain weekdays. The Saturday show is still going strong, of course. We'll have some extended pregame on Sunday as well. There's a nice little programming note for you. Sunday at noon, we'll get things started there as well. So yeah, everywhere, and at the same time, just very much at the same place. But there's a lot to do.
Derek, appreciate it, bud. Have a good show tonight. Good show tomorrow. And let's do this again soon.
Hey, we'll talk soon, Gene.
Thanks.
Appreciate it always.
Derek Kramer, as you would say from the mothership. Last call is for you. 866-4326, the area code probably 585 here at WGR Rochester.
Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Big guest coming up on Thursday. Make note of it, as we will be talking to Groot. Greg Rousseau coming back into the sports bar. We'll get him on phone. Even though it's rookie minicamp, he's going to be in the building there, and he certainly has something to promote. That would be the charity softball game coming up in June at the newly renamed ESL ballpark. And I guess, Tim, that's something that that's going to – I hope we get good weather for that. That's going to be really kind of a fun time because you normally get all the big hitters, and that would include – the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills coming out. This is, as I understand it, kind of like a one-year fix as Micah Hyde works through whatever the legal issue is with that out in Buffalo. One quick piece of audio, because if you're going to pay tribute to someone, this is the way to do it. This is Aaron Judge at the plate last night. Michael Kay on the YES Network.
And the pitch. High drive, right center field, going back to Veras. It is high, it is far, it is gone. Aaron Judge, a Judgian blast. Here comes the Judge.
That's Michael Kay paying tribute to John Sterling, because Kay usually his thing is see ya, and then kind of goes into the description there. And for Sterling, of course, you know, it is, as soon as you know, it is high, it is. You know, we kind of goofed on it over the years when you would have that instance where it is high, it is far, it's caught. You know, but for John Sterling, he did it at such a high level for so many years, and that was one of the many nice tributes for John Sterling. Michael Kay, of course. People forget that Michael Kay worked with Sterling on the radio broadcast before there was a YES Network. That was like at the dawn of the Yankee dynasty in the 90s, and they were a great pair. And then Michael Kay got the opportunity. So, like, Michael Kay owes a lot to John Sterling in terms of preparing him for a broadcast career, because Michael Kay started off really in print coming out of Fordham. Fun show we had today. Tomorrow on the show, we'll talk to our favorite Baltimorean, PJ Glasser, which I saw some hockey tweets. I think PJ might be coming around here a little bit on the Sport on Ice. We will talk about that, and certainly some NBA and some other things with PJ Glasser. We'll also get an update. Nighthawk fans tomorrow. Dan Carey, the team president for the Nighthawks, they've started their search for a head coach. And you look at the Nighthawks, what happened? 2-0 start. New ownership. All right, let's go. And then after that, you lose. You go 4-12 the rest of the way. Finish with a 6-12 record. Well, next year's a new year, and they've got some talent on this team. We'll talk to the team president tomorrow. If you missed any of today's show, may I suggest a few ways you can go back. You can go back, download the Odyssey app, listen to all 2 hours. We love that. Or, hey, I just want to hear Matt Perino today. Matt Perino on the 1 o'clock hour. Derek Kramer, we just finished up. Dandalorian has everything chopped up for you in bite-sized form wherever you get your fine audio, including the free-to-download Odyssey app. Thanks to our producer, Tim Schneider, always doing a great job, who is here tomorrow but not on Thursday. I didn't approve that, by the way, buddy.
Life happens, man.
No, I'm sorry. We'll have to negotiate that. Shope and the Bulldog coming your way next here on WGR Rochester.